Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley, Gorilla Girl filmmaker, lunar goddess, and cinephile.
Hey y'all, this is your guest ghost host Lila Kay. I'm coming at you from the Mile High to bring you chills and thrills.
And I'm your co-host John Thomas, ghost hunter, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all my movie-loving meta-pals? In today's episode, we will be talking about haunting and possession movies. What is the difference between a haunting and a possession? What are some of your favorite movies in the subgenres? Turn the lights way down low. Ignore the weird creaking sounds. Grab some pea soup and join us and our very special guest for the evening as we jump into this topic.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Like Ashley said, we have a special guest returning. We have Nathan. Thank you for coming back, good sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome back. I'm so happy. I don't even have words. I'm so happy you're here. Yay, you bring a smile to my face. We also have our awesome, amazing Lila.
Hello.
Ghost host extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire is a bit strong.
Nah, I feel it. I feel it in my jellies. So, that's a Pokemon reference. Because I'm a Pokemon nerd. So today we're talking about haunting and possession movies, as most people who have listened to the podcast probably have figured out by now. I am a big wimp when it comes to three movie types: hauntings, possessions, and zombies. So today we're going to be talking about two of them, but don't worry, coming up in season 2, later on, we will be talking about zombies. Yes. Not looking forward to that. So let's dive into it. What's your favorite out of the two, haunting or possession? Go.
I don't know. Possession movies scare me more, I think, just because I feel like it could happen. I mean, hauntings could probably too, obviously. I'm a investigator.
I was going to say you're a fucking ghost hunter.
He says probably.
Probably. I don't know. No.
Perhaps.
No. Definitely, I think possessions, though. It scares the shit out of me for sure.
Nathan?
I'm going to go the opposite route. I think I prefer a possession movie, but I think that haunting movie scares me more because, I mean, one person's possessed, just avoid that person. I mean, it's real easy. I mean, I guess you could also say, that house is haunted. Don't go in that house.
Avoid the house.
That's true. I don't know. Both are good. I think that there are definitely examples of both that I think are good. But I think as far as like what scares me the most, probably a haunting. A haunting scares me. I think that just having an evil entity having control over a large portion of real estate versus just one person, I think is what probably scares me about it.
What about you, Lila?
I think for me, I like haunted movies better than I do possession movies. They scare me a bit more because you don't actually, most times see the spirit that's doing the haunting or see the entity, whereas possession movies, there's less of that element of surprise because you know that someone has that spirit within them. You can pinpoint the person who's going to be wreaking havoc on whatever situation they're involved in, whereas you can't really in haunting movies. But I feel like there's a lot of overlap between two. Mm-hmm. In a lot of films, you don't have possession without haunting first. Things like that. What about you, Ashley? If you had to choose. No, you don't want to, but if you had to choose.
Okay, so I can appreciate good horror movies, especially when they freak me the fuck out. I don't care if it's within the genres that I try to avoid. So I will watch haunting movies. I will watch possession movies. And I will say out of both of those, possessions get me more. And I don't know if it's necessarily because I believe in it more. I think it's because what we're shown in the possession movies versus the haunting movies. Because with the haunting movies, not saying this is everything, all the movies, but typically everybody gets out alive. Like they get they get the fucking living piss scared out of them. But mostly everyone gets out alive. But possession movies, like wicked shit happens to people and people die. Like a lot of people die based on these demonic forces. I think it's more aggressive, it's more malevolent, and so they scare me more and I like it. I like it, but I don't like it. I love to hate it. So those freak me out. And I think also because you visually see your terrorist, if you will. Like with haunting movies, we don't typically get to see the ghosts. We see the experiences and like, ooh, the door slammed and the bed shook and this girl got dragged down the hallway. But with possession movies, like people's eyes are rolling back and they're like spinning their head around in circles and it's like, fuck, okay. I can't logic that one away. People can't do that.
I mean, I guess that you also have to distinguish like haunting Paranormal Activity versus haunting The Fog.
Yeah.
You can see those ghosts.
Okay, fair.
13 ghosts. There are at least 13 ghosts that you can see. It's in the title, 13.
I was thinking about that when I was saying that. That's why I said it's not the like entire rule, it's the exception, because I actually specifically thought of 13 ghosts. I'm like, you see those ghosts.
Yeah, oh yeah.
House on Haunted Hill people died too, so
Yeah.
I suppose.
And you
Yeah.
kind
Depends
of
on
see
your
that
ghost.
too, but yeah.
See, and for me, it's the opposite, where I'm not as scared if I see it. So in possession movies, I'm like, oh, well, this is what we're doing now. We're doing the whole eyes rolling back. We're doing the whole limbs moving in places that they shouldn't be moving. But haunting movies, for me, where you normally can't see the ghost, that's what gets me those jump scares. That's what I love.
So what would we define as a possession movie? I think we can all agree on hauntings, but I think there's a gray area when it comes to possession movies, at least for me, what we consider possession. Because I think there are movies out there where a person acts like they are becoming possessed, but it's like, what do we define as that possession? Is it by a demon, by a ghost? Does it matter as long as the host is not in control anymore? Like, what would we consider?
I feel like, like you said, as long as the host is not in control, that's possession. Something else is taken over, and the other person or the person whose body got taken over has no control over anything. So, yeah.
I would agree with that. I think that unless you're making some distinction over, like, if by chance the whatever's taking over is a parasite rather than poltergeist or
Right.
paranormal. But yes, I agree with that. I think possession is like, because honestly, I think as preparing for this discussion, I was kind of thinking about what are my favorite possession movies. And I'm like, oh, there are a lot of movies that I think fall under that category that I wouldn't have originally thought of it. But anything from Jennifer's Body to The Evil Dead to Night of the Demons, those are all possession movies. They're all human people who are being possessed by demons, but I think when I think possession movie, as a genre, I think no control and, like bodies that don't hardly even leave the bed, and then when I think about possession, really, it's like, oh, it's totally just a demon in a body.
I have to say this because he had mentioned bodies not leaving the bed. My mind, and this isn't horror by any means, but my body automatically goes to Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka. All of a sudden, Charlie's got that golden ticket. That fucker's up jumping around. He's like, woohoo, he's possessed. No.
I think he was possessed because he went from he can't leave the bed to like jumping and skipping and doing backflips.
I'm going to go see the Chocolate Factory. Well, and also I think it's interesting that you bring up Jennifer's Body, because I feel like that's not a horror movie that is discussed often because of what it is. But yeah, I guess it is a possession movie. However, that one I think still falls into the gray area because Jennifer does still have control over her body. She is making the decision to hunt these people down, to go ahead and feed off of them. Granted, she wasn't a demon beforehand, but like she is still the one who is in control of her body. So is there like some sort of subcategory that we can put those types of movies in under possessions?
She was like human gone bad.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I think even claiming that she is in control is could be a whole podcast of its own.
Ooh.
I think that's an interesting discussion. I don't know. I mean, because I still think it's possession. I mean, I think you're right. I think that there's definitely room for debate, but I mean, I still think it's still a succubus in that body that wasn't there until a little emo rock band tried to sacrifice her to the devil.
Fair enough.
As most emo rock bands tend to do.
That what happened to me? I wonder.
It is.
Okay. It makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
Well, 2 movies. Okay. 2 movies for my horror-loving friends come to mind for me, and they're both classics, but I think about Amityville Horror and The Shining, where you have your 2 main characters that are experiencing a haunting-like scenario, so I almost feel like this is a combo type movie where it's in both worlds, but they're being taken over. Now, whether they're being taken over by their own madness or by something else, like the energy in The Shining, the energy from the hotel is kind of driving him, or is he still in charge but like slipping into insanity? Same with Amityville. He goes mad, but is he being taken over slowly by the house? So that's where I kind of like, what is that? Is that, because to me it almost felt like possession. Like both characters are slowly being possessed by where they're staying. May not be a specific ghost or demon, but like that real estate, I guess. Is there a real estate possession? Because those aren't the only movies where that happens, where someone lives in the home and there's not like a specific demon, but they start to embody that energy of that house or whatever and start, whack-a-mole killing everybody. I don't know. Thoughts?
I'm thinking of them.
I definitely think that in the case of The Shining, it's both possession and haunting, because the hotel is obviously, well, depending on, what interpretation of the story, whether you're going King or Kubrick, but it's basically, I feel like the hotel is haunted, but at some point it starts to take possession over Jack. I mean, I'm always, this whole thing is reminding me of the speech that Angela gives in Night of the Demons, talking about the difference between possession and a haunting, that a haunting is, well, I think that the way that they talk about it is a haunting is a ghost and possession is a demon. But I feel like, at least in terms of how we're talking about this discussion, that haunting seems to be geography and possession seems to be body. But is it? I mean, we haven't really defined it, really. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the second it becomes a body is taken over and the original, soul or energy attached to that body is no longer in control, whether they're kicked out, suppressed, or whatever, becomes, then it's like possession. But similar to your point earlier, it's like, fuck, that could be, if that's the definition, that could be other movies. Like, what was it? Puppet Masters Part, 3 or whatever, where they're attaching to, the alien things attaching to the base of the skull and then taking over the bodies. And it's like, that's technically possession. Something else is taking over, but that's a parasite versus this supernatural thing that you can't see.
Right. Well, I mean, there's Paranormal Activity where Katie's actually the one being haunted, not the house. It's not haunted. And then she ends up possessed. So that, I don't know, that's just a whole other thing too. But yeah, that's where my mind went with all of that. So one person being haunted. Although, if you count the sequel, her sister was haunted about the same time, actually, beforehand, because it's all weird-ass timeline. But, yeah, technically that family was being haunted in 2 different spots, so it wasn't just a house, and then they both ended up possessed, and, yeah, people died.
People died. This is no big deal, just a sideline. People died.
As tends to happen, yeah.
I mean, typically. Okay, so then what is your favorite possession movie?
I mean,
or top 3, if you have
The Exorcist, definitely, just because it still scares the crap out of me. So that's my top. Anybody else?
I'm very partial to Night of the Demons. That's always a go-to for me. I like it. It's dark, it's mean, and I don't know. It's a bloody good time.
Definitely. Night of the Demons, Jennifer's Body, definitely. I think that's a pretty great one. And just Demons, the movie Demons, the Italian film Demons, is pretty amazing. It's pretty gory as hell and violent. I don't know. I mean, I think The Exorcist, The Exorcist is amazing. There's a reason it's a classic. It still holds up. It's still pretty darn amazing.
I think for me, I'm sitting here realizing maybe I have seen more possession movies than I originally thought, based on how we're choosing to define. So if we do count The Shining as one, because it started off as a haunting and kind of became more from that, then I would go ahead and say The Shining. But if we're talking about straight to the point, like no gray area, no ifs, ands, or buts, it would be The Exorcist as well.
Okay, question. Would you consider doll movies then a subcategory of possession movies? Like Chucky?
Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think there are plenty of movies that kind of, genre is fluid anyway, and I think that a lot of movies kind of eclipse both. I mean, you could consider the second Nightmare on Elm Street film, that's a possession movie, because Freddy is possessing Jesse. And he's using Jesse's body to go through. And then it gets a little more specific of how that works with, 3 and 4 with using someone else. But I think that second one definitely kind of skirts those edges a bit.
I think Wes Craven's New Nightmare too, right?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to take over the little boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Freddy just wants to get out any way he can.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would count doll movies as possession, because if we are sitting here defining that as a being that is taking over a host, a doll is a host. That is a body, even though it is not a living, breathing organism, it is still a body and can still be manipulated in some way. Maybe manipulated isn't the right word, but can be taken over.
So typically we've talked about haunted objects, and when we talk about haunted objects, we don't specify whether it's a spirit or a demon or anything like that. If something an entity is attached to an object, we call it haunted. So then should we instead be calling it a possessed object?
I would call the difference between a living and a dead spirit. And how I would call that into question is, as we're talking about this, I'm like, okay, well, where does Chucky fall? Chucky's kind of a possessed doll because it was the spirit of a killer who was dying that went into this body, and they keep trying to have it reborn into human host. So I think it still is more possessed than haunted. I think that haunted to me is, I don't know, I think it's an interesting thing when you talk about objects, because I think that certain hauntings are specifically haunted. Like, I don't think of a house as being possessed. I think of a house as being haunted. But I don't think of Chucky as being a haunted doll. I think he's a possessed doll.
So then could we classify haunted object versus possessed object based on maybe its mobility? Like Chucky was moving, he was animated, he was able to go and do things. Whereas, like, if you just had a doll with a spirit in it that wasn't moving, that would just be a haunted doll because it's not doing anything, it's not moving around.
Yeah.
Compared to, Chucky is a classic example.
So what if the Hot Wheels car is moving around, or the Furby doll is turning on and off?
Possessed?
And
Fuck that Furby, by
it's
the way.
possessed.
No, fuck that Furby.
Yeah.
If I see a little Hot Wheels skirt around, the floors by itself, that's a possessed Hot Wheels.
Skirt.
Unless there's a ghost playing with it.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's interesting.
Oh, well, here you go. I think the objects being thrown around by the ghost in the movie Poltergeist, those are as a result of a haunting. However, you could probably argue that when the clown doll becomes animated, it is a possessed doll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck that clown.
even
too.
if it's just temporarily so by the ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's a great haunting movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, still perfectly proof that you can have a scary movie that's not R-rated. It's just they don't come along every day.
Exactly.
So then what about Pet Cemetery? Is that possession? Is that them just like the evil version? Or is that some completely different entity inside of these bodies that have come out and they're like, you will die.
You will die.
I want to play with you now.
That's a hard one because
Yeah, I don't know.
the cemetery itself is now what we have to put into question, and I would assume the way that we have been talking before that it's the grounds that are haunted, but once you have whoever is buried there come out and come alive, they are now possessed by whatever was in the burial. But I will be honest, I haven't seen that movie in a real long time, so I could just be remembering things wrong.
I'm just gonna say it's a zombie movie. They're zombies
That's, yeah.
in a way.
But is zombie possession? Depends on the zombie type.
Oh, I don't know.
Zombies are zombies.
You're hurting my brain. You got good questions, but you're hurting my brain.
You guys are like, fuck you, Ashley.
No, these are questions that need to be asked. So
Need to.
I'm just saying, if
life or
we're
death.
going down this spiral, let's have fun with it. But in that case, like, is it just then dependent on the type of zombie? Because in Pet Cemetery, yeah, that could classify as zombies, but what are they being possessed by? Because I feel like zombies that are taken over by a parasite that like numbs out your brain and now you're acting wonky, that one I don't think I classify as possession. No. That's just like a biological, horror.
Right.
But if we're talking zombie, like I've reanimated and brought like a demon back with me, or I'm just brought something from an evil side, which is what, I don't know. Is it your soul that turned evil, or is it something else in the body? Like, I'm so confused. What is it in Pet Cemetery? What the fuck are they?
Right.
Well, I mean, I think that could be the answer. I mean, I think it's your evil spirit returned from, the netherworld. I think you could argue that's a haunting because it's a ghost, even if you're your own ghost. But I think if it's some evil Native American spirit, not to say that Native Americans are evil spirits, but I'm just saying if it's more like that, then I think you could argue it possession. But I think that would be more splitting hairs, period, just because I feel like the point of Pet Cemetery is less about a possession and a haunting and more about that whole, almost like you said, about the zombie. I mean, to me, Pet Cemetery is more about that line between the living and the dead.
Man, I don't know, though. I think that, for me, that does matter. Because I think it's scarier if there's this idea that when you die, part of you is evil and part of you could live on in that very, like, there's, I don't know, it almost speaks to like humanity in a way that we don't want to look at ourselves. Like, is there something evil within us that we don't know about? And so when they came back, like whatever was in the cemetery, because I know it was on Native American grounds, wasn't it? Or something like that they said. So it's like, part of that is like, is there something that happens there where it's like the evil in your soul gets drawn out and that's what you come back as? And it's like, to me, that's fucking scarier than something else coming in my body and doing all this damage through my empty flesh bag of a vessel. Like, I'm evil versus something else is evil. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that fucks with me a little. I don't want to be evil.
Well, the cat I can see. Church, coming back. Okay, cats are assholes. I love my cats, but cats are assholes. I'm not going to lie. Come on.
As
now.
Nathan is, like, petting Boris back there. Wait, is that Boris? I can't see.
It is, Boris.
Okay.
Hey, I love my cat. Trust me, I do. But they could be assholes. But a little boy, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Who knows?
Kids are assholes.
Most of the time, yes, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I would take that over, like, cats taking the blame any day.
Yeah.
I like kids are assholes.
I don't like kids. Cats, however, cats can stay.
Well, I think that we could argue that Pet Cemetery is probably some degree of a possession story because I feel like the text at least alludes to the fact that they believe it's linked to the Wendigo. All we know is the ground has gone sour. and that was why they had stopped burying people there. But I don't know. That's a good question. I guess that's a good movie to debate, because I feel like it could go under a few different headings, and there's text to support them all.
Yes. And if any of our listeners have any commentary on any of that, please, when you hear this, let us know.
I was just going to say that. You beat me to it. I would love to hear what everyone else thinks.
Other than kids are assholes, because we can all agree kids could be assholes.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
That's not up for debate.
Right. Same with the cats.
Uh-oh. Lila just gave the side eye.
I know. She did.
I almost missed the comment, then I was like, hang on, did I hear that again? Yeah, I did.
All right, so then I have one for you. Maximum Overdrive. Possession or haunting? They're trucks, but those were trucks that were not...
Well, I think, this is the real debate, because we've hit this a few times. Mm-hmm. Alien forces taking over. I'm finishing the Tommyknockers right now, where people are literally becoming the aliens. Mm-hmm. Are aliens? I mean, is that a possession when an alien takes over a host?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have to say yeah.
Here's why. We don't know what demons are, and I think that the bias of religious, dogmatic, theology makes us kind of want to lump it into something different. We don't even know what demons are, hypothetically speaking. They could be a version of aliens that we don't know about. And same with aliens. We don't know if that's just a different type of demonic force. So, with that said, why not? Why can't it be possession if an original host is being taken over outside of their will, or maybe by their will, because some people do summon demons for fun, and losing control or functionality over their body or toy.
Or truck.
Yeah, I feel like the definition that we, in this last little bit of time, have given to possession is the host not being in control. It doesn't matter who it's by or what it's by. If we are saying that the host is no longer in control and something has taken over, it doesn't matter if it's a ghost, a demon, an alien. It still counts. In my mind, anyway.
What about a computer program?
That's just a virus.
Well, then to me, then I would argue that what we're arguing about, then I think that Maximum Overdrive would have to be a haunting, because they're not live. Although Christine, if you go by the book, Christine is a haunting, because it's the ghost of the former owner that's inside the car.
Yeah.
This topic is going to make my head fucking hurt.
This is hard, guys.
I feel like we just keep going back and forth here. Which is fun
to try and figure out.
Yeah. It's fun, but then it's like, okay, well, we say one thing about one movie or, one topic, and then we're like, oh, well, what about this? And now we're switching it. I don't know. I'm here for the entertainment.
I just went through. It's okay.
I'm here for the bloody murders and jump scares. I don't care what it is. Demon, alien,
exactly.
Chucky.
It scares me, then it's good enough.
I feel like Chucky's just his own genre. I don't even want to call him a haunting or possessions. Chucky's Chucky.
Chucky's Chucky.
And there is no other Chucky.
No.
Well, I do think that. I think that there are times that, for example, I quoted Demons. And yeah, that's certainly a possession movie, because you see normal people turn into these demons. So if they're demons and they're demons escaping one plane into existence, yeah, that's possession. But I also feel like the point of Demons is almost like the zombie film. It's like Night of the Living Dead. You're seeing these monsters eating people in a contained place. So I feel like yes, we could argue that Chucky is a possessed doll, but I don't feel like the Chucky movies per se are possession movies. I think they're slasher movies.
Right.
With a killer doll.
Yes.
That happens to be possessed.
I would agree with that. I would agree. It's Chucky himself who is possessed, but he's not really possessing anyone else, at least not successfully.
Right.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, because I guess in that same vein, we see that with Jason, right? Friday the 13th, he died and came back evil a la Pet Cemetery style. And the motherfucker just won't die, but we're not going to call him any of those things. We're not going to call him a zombie. We're just going to say it's a slasher film.
But it does start to become a possession film when you get to Jason Goes to Hell, and he's a little slug that goes into everybody's body. Then he's kind of a possession movie because he's possessing those bodies.
Such an epic scene when they're doing the autopsy and that guy just like wolfs it, like starts eating it and wolfing it down. It's like, what? How could you ever feel beckoned to just eat this? Like, it's just like a siren. Eat this flesh. Ooh. I'm a texture person. It does not look like a very yummy texture.
I love that that's your concern. Is the texture.
The texture is wrong.
It is wrong. Like, I could see his potential. Maybe, I'd consider that if it was like a rib or something. But it's like, there's this yucky looking, like, texture, like, gooey. Nope, I'm good.
Nope.
Nathan's like, I am a vegetarian. Cut that shit out.
That's fine. It's just the fact that you are like, okay, well, if I was eating Jason's rib, that would be okay. But his heart is no good. You know, like...
That's where you draw the line.
Obviously, I'm just saying, obviously, there's something about the spirit that's, like, causing this guy to even consider eating it. So, for me, it's just like, if something's, like, beckoning, siren calling me to eat it, I'd be like, nope, that looks just not appetizing. I can't do it. Like, nope, can't do it. I would eat his rib.
Goodness.
Oh. But to your point, that's a slasher film. Even, Jason Goes to Hell. It's, like, I think they did go possession more so slasher than slasher in that one.
Yeah.
But it's still in a slasher series.
Yeah. Evil Dead, possession.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Especially the new one. I feel like they went that they went even more hard and leaned into that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that one.
Yes.
That movie is very intense. I had not watched that for quite a while, and I just revisited that about 2 months ago. And I hadn't watched it for a while, but about 20 minutes into it, I realized that my feet were sweaty. And then about 20 minutes later, like, I'm realizing that my, like, palms are clammy, and I'm, like, clenching, and I'm like, this movie is relentless.
Yeah.
I think it's very well done. It's definitely a great remake, a good reimagining. I think it works because Ash is not in it, as much as I love Bruce Campbell.
Right.
That movie that got to me too.
Yeah.
I was sitting on a couch with my back to like an open room when I watched that movie for the first time. And it was like in the middle of the day, but I had all the blinds closed. And I just remember, like, as I'm watching this movie, I don't know, like you said, you're just so into it, and suddenly you, like, check in with your space around you. And I had, like, sunk into the couch. Like, my head was pressed against the back of the couch, and I'm just, like, as far down on the couch as I can get as I'm watching this. And I kept, like, peeking over my shoulder, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah. This movie got me.
Yes, I watched it in theaters with Kevin, and in theaters that was even freakier. And, yeah. And I know we've mentioned it before, but Jane Levy, come on. Amazing in that fucking movie. Just saying.
She sold it, for sure.
Hell yeah.
So then, favorite haunting movies? Because we've been on Possessions a lot.
I don't know.
I mean, Poltergeist. I mean, we talked about Poltergeist. That's a great movie. Very scary. Good ghost movie. I would say the original The Haunting. I would say The Haunting of Hill House. 13 Ghosts. 13 Ghosts is a great haunting movie.
Yeah. There's a few. You know, I definitely Poltergeist. The Conjuring. I did enjoy the original one. That one got me pretty good. House on Haunted Hill, stuff like that. Yeah.
Poltergeist is definitely on top of my list. And actually, I think Poltergeist 3 was starting to kind of transition into the possession area.
Yeah.
With them trying to draw people into the mirrors and then bring them back out with something else in their body. Like a swap That movie freaked me out with mirrors.
Yeah.
As a kid, like I would not walk past mirrors in the dark after watching that movie because it's like something about that got to me.
Good, I wasn't the only one.
Like, you can't have my body, you assholes. So yeah, I definitely was along the Poltergeist movie vibes, and I like how real like they made the parents. You know, you see a lot of these movies where it's almost like the cleavers and these bad things are just happening to these just families, and I love how in Poltergeist, not saying that their behavior made them deserve this at all, not at all.
They're
but I love
totally
how,
smoking a doob at the beginning.
I
Is this
loved
what
it.
you're going to say? Yes.
I love that though. I loved it because it's like up until this point, everybody in a horror movie is just like this little innocent victim, other than slasher films where you get murdered if you're not wholesome. And in this one, it's just like you can't help but love the parents, but they're not like, you don't love them because they're these wholesome, you know, white picket fence people. Like, they are totally smoking a joint and they're laughing their asses off. And it's just like, this is hilarious. This is awesome. You can't help but love the parents.
Right.
I think for me, while you were on the subject of mirrors, I like remembered a movie that I had totally spaced out. Oculus
Oh, yeah.
was a haunted movie.
Yes.
With this big old mirror that, you know, the two siblings were set out to destroy because it had ruined their family back when they were kids. But that also falls into gray area because that became a possession movie as the film went on, with the dad becoming possessed and wanting to hurt his family and things like that. Just like we were talking about with Amityville, just like we were talking about with The Shining. But it's based around this haunted object, based around a haunted mirror. I loved that one.
Yes.
The scene with her eating the apple that turned out to be a light bulb ruined me because I was like that one, it was a texture thing. I get that. But also biting into a light bulb sounds so satisfying. And also like a very bad idea.
I see where she's coming from.
Oh, it's crunchy.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I see that.
Satisfying, but also a bad idea. That sounds like the story of my sex life. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's going to be edited out.
Or is it? I'm just kidding.
I don't know. We'll see how I feel.
I did love that movie. That one got me because you're rooting for the main characters and you're rooting for them to destroy the mirror and end the haunting that, you know, has been ruining their lives, that, you know, put the brother in, you know, psychiatric care or whatever that situation was. You're rooting for them and it doesn't end well for them. That's what sticks out about me with that one. Where, Ashley, at the beginning you were talking about in haunted movies, a lot of the times these people get out. The people are okay at the end. This was one of those movies where they weren't.
I think there was a switch in horror to not happy endings around the early 2000s. They realized that fucks with people more. And so I think haunting movies is kind of where they started to do that, where people are trapped in their homes after all, or the possession doesn't end up well and people are dead and it's like, haha, power to the dark side. Because I think people realize that it fucks with the audience when you don't get a happy ending.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And I think more and more films like Mama and stuff like that, like they lead, spoiler alert to those who haven't watched it, you don't have happy endings. And it really does fuck with you. Okay, Skeleton Key.
Oh, wow.
It's like borderline horror. But I think it's what, Kate Hudson?
Yeah, I haven't watched that one in forever. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's a gray area, but I would say that is a possession film. But the interesting thing about that is that's not spirits. It's not living spirits that died and then they're living again. They are living spirits that keep getting transferred into new vessels and the other people pushed out completely and put in the original host. So I guess is that possession because they're not in their body anymore. It's just like a swap, body swaps. Oh no, it's kind of fucked. Nathan's like, I need a drink.
Yeah, no shit.
Makes life more fun.
I have to admit, I've not seen Skeleton Key. I know what you're talking about, but I've not seen that film.
I wouldn't say you're missing out.
It's not horrible, but it's not great either. Yeah. I mean, Kate Hudson, I love Kate Hudson, but yeah, it's just okay.
I think, yes, it's like, it's based in the voodoo That's what they heavily rely on to explain everything away. But it's like Get Out, right? Like, in a sense, where a living person is being put into another living person. But I think with Get Out, the main person is still in there. They're just being suppressed down into this other space within themselves. So maybe that's more true possession. Whereas in Skeleton Key, they are completely swapping souls and bodies so that these people can keep living forever and ever and ever. Just keep continuously swapping into children and other adults by means of voodoo. And then I hear voodoo and think of the labyrinth. Okay, so then sex with the demon. Is that a haunting?
Might be a stupid choice. I don't know.
Okay, well, life choices aside, is it a haunting?
Could be a haunting, could be a possession. I really think it depends on the outcome.
Yeah. Dear Lord.
Ashley, what goes on in your mind?
I know.
What is it like to be you?
It's exhausting. Highly entertaining. Highly entertaining.
You're not wrong there.
I'm just saying, I mean, we hear, we talked about this in our Incubus Cyrus episodes and possession episodes. Like, when a demon is the stages of possession, right? Which is where we see these movies where it's like it could be a combo where they get paranormal activity, but then it slowly becomes possession. Like, it's a stage of possession, right? Where you experience the activity in your home first. Right. And then it slowly starts to wear you down, and then it possesses you. So for me, it's like, okay, that makes sense. You're going to see that in the movies, but it's just like, okay, well, what about the relationships with the demons? Is that a stage of possession where they're slowly trying to overtake you? I don't know. But up until they do take over, is the haunting?
I think it's a possession. I think it's all methodology of possession, stages of possession. Because I feel like, for example, in Night of the Demons, Suzanne as a demon uses, sexual and romantic behavior to spread demonic possession to other people, but also to ensnare victims. So I think it can be both, but I think it's usually a means to an end. Because even in Jennifer's Body, she's using that.
Okay. That was a very polite way of saying, by the way, what she did in Night of the Demons. To spread possession.
She put lipstick in her boobie. How's that?
Amongst other things. I remember all the scenes. Yeah, that was a fun, raunchy movie. There's just so many, like, I guess, gray areas. But I do like that they kind of go hand in hand. They're like siblings, right? To an extent. And at the end of the day, people are being terrorized, and that's pretty much what happens. And I think they're terrifying. I think it's also a little interesting because, like, with all movies, there's typically only like one way to get rid of a possession, right? And they got to call in the church, or they got to call in whoever to get rid of that possessed entity. They have to call in some kind of religious figure, whether it be a shaman or a priest or a preacher or anything in between. Whereas in hauntings, there really like tends to be not one clear way of how to get rid of a ghost or spirits. And like Amityville Horror, they never got rid of it. Like, they're 30 movies in, and they still have the same the same fucking problem. Like, I think at some point, just burn down the fucking house. Like, it's just start over. And in fact, don't even burn down the house and just put a nice garden on there and leave it as is. That's probably how you get Pet Sematary. I was gonna say that's like probably. it was an Amityville house that someone burned down because they're like, this is not working. And here we go. See, there you go. That's how Pet Sematary happens when you
Look
burn
at
down
you making
Amityville Horror.
Yeah,
full circle.
You're putting red yarn to pins on a board,
right? All through the board. I'm like the
you.
serial killer boards, and it's just like, yep, made those connections. Because it just at some point, like, you see these movies where they've got like 30 films in, or just over exaggerating that number, but actually Amityville Horror has quite a few.
It does.
But it's like they have all of these movies where the same house is terrorizing people, and it's just like, like The Shining, they fucking blew up the hotel. But but it's like you have all of these movies where people are like, oh my God, what do we do? Well, I should pawn my house off onto some sad sucker and let them deal with that. Like, you know what? Just burn it fucking down. Get some kid to do it for you.
You don't go camping in New Jersey. You don't summer at Amityville. You don't spend your Halloween in Haddonfield. It's like you just have to just keep moving. You'll be fine. It's really your schedule that depends.
Hang on,
it's just a
that.
rotating schedule. I do Vacation in Salem's Lot.
There was the movie Sinister, where moving houses was not the solution, but actually made the problem worse. So do you guys remember how in the first one, at the end, the dad was like, I'm packing up the family, we're moving because bad things are happening to us here. And then they found out once they had moved houses that actually progressed. I guess the story progressed, the hauntings, the
more aggressive.
Whatever you want to call that. Moving was not the solution to that. They should have stayed put. They should not have moved, because that was ultimately the downfall of the family, was taking that initiative and going. Which also, Sinister was a great haunting movie. If we can go ahead and count that as one, because it was some supernatural being that was, wreaking havoc on a family, that was a great haunting movie and was terrifying.
Yeah.
There's dead silence here.
No, I agree. We see that with Poltergeist too. No matter how many times they moved poor Carol Ann, like, it followed her. Once it attached to her and made that, like, energetic spiritual connection, or whatever you want to call it, like, it followed her. Whether it be at that house where the Native American burial grounds were, all the way to her uncle's high rise, like, in the city. Like, once it attaches, like, it follows. And so then that begs the question, like you guys said before, is the real estate haunted, or is it just chilling there waiting for something new and specific to attach to?
And then you just said the name of another movie that brought up something. It Follows. Would that be possession? It's definitely not haunting.
No, because I think it's just murdering bad kids that have sex.
But it's something that transfers from when they do. I don't know.
Was it ever trying to possess them or just punish them, though?
Both. Just kidding. Yeah. No, you're probably right.
I kind of view that in its own line as, like, Candyman, once it's been released and it's doing its thing, but
right.
It's not really possessing people. Except for, spoilers, new
film.
Candyman. New Candyman, that's a totally different ballpark. They veered completely differently than the original, and I think I'm okay with that, though. I think I am okay with what they did to that world. Because, sometimes they change the world too much, and it's like, well, that's not even the same. Like, you just took this iconic character but completely changed everything else. I think what they did really finessed it, and it's in the possession realm now. And I like that. I kind of like that.
100%.
Although I guess she was kind of possessed in part 2 as well. Helen kind of started to become.
Right.
Again, I think that there's a degree of this, there's a degree of possession in Freddy movies, or at least one or two of them. I feel like, I don't know. Because I also think that you have to think about the fact that, like, there's no one set of rules. All these movies have their own rules, and sometimes the movies have multiple sets of rules. And sometimes, like in the, the example I was thinking of while you were talking about the different poltergeists, it's like, yeah, some of those rules are dictated by box office. It's like, well, this was a haunting movie, but now it's a possession movie because, we moved them out, but we decided to make a sequel. So,
that's because I think, too, people were terrified of the preacher in Poltergeist. And so he went from being a dead spiritual cult leader to suddenly something demonic. Like, they even changed him a bit. He went from having been a human to becoming this demon-ish creature. And yeah, I see So much differences, but it doesn't stop me from loving and still being terrified of these films.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any last thoughts on hauntings and possession movies?
I think they're good. I mean, I like a good haunting movie. I don't know. I prefer if we're talking about these movies, I like a good possession movie, but I think I like a good haunted house movie. Just 'cause I like the idea of I do like the idea of a certain real estate being haunted, but I think that the problem is, I think once you get to modern sensibilities, you're just like how we're all joking, which is just move. Just move. just don't
Just
be
burn,
there.
just burn the fucking house down.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm always going to watch them. I'm always going to, have something to say about them, but I'll still continue to watch.
I love a good haunting movie. I love a good possession movie. Those two things really do go hand in hand. And I feel like especially now in those more modern horror movies like you're talking about, Ashley, the more 2000s and beyond movies, you can't have one without the other. So there is a switch in how these movies are made and how best to scare people is, I think, what they're trying to accomplish more than anything. I feel like the story is still important in what is being told, but it's mostly just, well, what can we do? What tactics can we use to scare people the most? How do we get butts in seats?
So like Nate was saying, commercialism.
But it is a good point, though. I mean, I feel like now you see more sequels and you see more trilogies, everything like that, because they know it works. They know we're going to watch these movies and still like them. So they can change from haunting to possession or however, and we're still going to watch them. And I still love them. There's just a change in dynamic now.
So do you think sleep paralysis is attempted possession?
Do you?
Oh, hell, I don't know. We're just talking about weird shit, so I figure I'd throw it out there.
I don't think Ashley really wants that answered, because if we say yes, then it's oh shit.
Just say no. Just say no.
Exactly.
No, Ashley, no. Yay.
Absolutely, it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, one job.
So my takeaway from this is that there's no strict definition on this one. They go hand in hand, and there's oftentimes blurred lines. And don't have sex with demons, because it's an attempted possession.
Yes.
Cool. It's all wrapped up in a nice box with a bow and all.
I feel like those are 3 good points.
Yeah, I still think we have more questions than answers, but hey, you know what? That's okay.
I guess, a good movie has me not questioning and just terrified and watching.
Exactly.
So
That's all that matters.
keep them coming, movie studios.
Yes.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you for another fun episode where we mostly made our head hurts, but... Oh, yeah, and I forgot. Point number 4, kids are assholes. Okay, so
There you go.
that's my takeaway.
4A, so are cats.
So thank you, Nathan, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always happy to be here.
Heck yeah.
We love having you here. Thank you, Lila, for being an awesome, amazing ghost host.
Of course.
Bring us home, Lila.
Thank you so much to Nathan for joining us again on 3Haunted Podcast. I'm your ghost host, Lila Kay.
I'm John Thomas.
And I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
If you have any episode suggestions, questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and follow all of our social media so you don't miss one moment.
Sleep tight.